Hello, everyone. So, we're living in a very woke world these days, but if there are some of you out there who like the idea of traditional marriage, who like the idea of religion, traditional moral values, and you happen to be pro-life, then there's one country that wants to roll out the red carpet and welcome you right in. Now, when I tell you what this country is, you're going to see it's a bit controversial, but here at Nomad, we want to keep all options open. So, comrade, stay tuned and see which country I'm going to talk about today. Hello, everyone. Привет, как дела? How is everyone doing? This is Javier, Research and Development Associate here at Nomad Capitalist, and today I wanted to start off this video by saying a big hello to everyone in Russian because, you guessed it, comrade, we're going to be talking about the nation of the Russian Federation, the controversial nation of Russia. That is going to be at the center of today's video. And you know what? Russia, it's been in the news recently. So the same Russia that invaded Ukraine, the same Russia with its controversial president, Vladimir Putin, that's the one we're going to be talking about today. Now, full disclaimer, just as I do whenever we talk about any controversial country, Nomad Capitalist is not a political channel. We will not be discussing anything to do with politics or the Russian-Ukraine war. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, and our intention here is not to speak either favorably or unfavorably of Vladimir Putin and the government of Russia. So what is the intent of today's video? It's simply to inform you that the nation of Russia is rolling out a very peculiar type of visa, so-called anti-woke visa. The official name translates as the Shared Values Visa, and this visa is essentially intended for you who are in New York, London, Paris, Madrid, San Francisco, and maybe you're unhappy with the way things are. Maybe you remember earlier times when families were more traditional, when maybe you could speak more openly about your views on controversial topics such as homosexuality or abortion. Again, Nomad Capitalist is not a political channel. We do not have any official stance on the topics, but we do acknowledge that many of our clients feel very strongly either one way or the other, and a big portion of our clients happen to have some very conservative points of view. So if you feel unhappy about the current liberal trend that is prevailing in most Western countries, then you might find that Russia might be an option for you. So if you're in the West and you, as I mentioned before, are not happy with the current liberal trend that is prevailing in most Western countries, let's take a look at this very peculiar visa in Russia and what exactly it entails. So number one, very simple, you have to be from the West. I mean, I think this is pretty self-evident given the name of the visa and also basically the conditions that are outlined by the Russian government. It is intended for people who live mainly in North America and Western Europe, which is obviously where woke culture is the most prevalent and where it's gaining the most ground. Because, newsflash for you, Latin America, not that woke. Africa, not that woke. Southeast Asia, not that woke. Now, you may like it or you may dislike it. As I mentioned earlier in this video, we have clients from all walks of life who hold all kinds of opinions, and Nomad Capitalist isn't here to shape an opinion. We just help people go where they feel they're treated best. So if you are a very liberal person and you think abortion rights are important and you want a place where you can live, there are a ton of countries that would allow you to do that on a tax-friendly basis. If, however, you are more conservative and you are more religious and you want things to be more as they were 50 or 40 years ago, then that's also fine with Nomad Capitalist, and we can also help you go to places that are much more conservative, where you might feel more comfortable and where your family might feel more comfortable. Russia is definitely in the category that I would definitely say identifies and goes better with the latter group of people that I was talking about. Russia is a more conservative country. It is a country where family values, traditional marriage is still very much important. Vladimir Putin famously said that while he's in office, marriage will be between one man and one woman. Again, you may disagree, you may agree, but those are just the facts. In addition to that, Russia has in recent years tightened its abortion regulations. So abortion is still legal in Russia under certain circumstances, but it has been limited. It is more limited than what you might find in certain Western countries. So again, if you feel strongly about that issue, if you have strong religious values and you believe in being pro-life, then sure, your values may align with the values you may find in Russia. And this is important because in addition to being a Westerner or being located in one of these Western countries where, again, woke culture is progressing, the other major condition that the Shared Values Visa imposes on applicants is that you have to basically openly and explicitly declare that you share these values with the Russian government and the Russian people. And by sharing these national values, then you are welcomed into the nation of Russia. The good element about this visa is that you will be excluded from the regular quotas, which limit foreign immigrants into Russia. So if at any point you were interested in the Russian language, Russian culture, Russian history, Russian girls, I know many gentlemen watch this channel, Russian girls, we have to admit, they're beautiful. A lot of them are. So if you're interested in Russia overall, then this is great because under regular circumstances, there would be limits imposed on which foreigners and how many foreigners can actually relocate to Russia. But in this case, you are excluded from the quota. So if millions of people apply for the visa and millions of people qualify, then millions of people can be eligible to move to Russia. It is much simpler, much less bureaucratic. In addition to all of this, the other important element is that all requirements of learning Russian, knowing Russian history, and having a basic knowledge of Russian laws has been waived, meaning that if you are a Westerner and maybe you're not the best at foreign languages, you'll be able to move to Russia and you don't have to be worried about learning Russian to keep your legal status. Now, here at Nomad Capitalist, part of the whole fun of exploring and traveling across the world is also learning about different cultures and different languages. I, for instance, as you may have noticed on this channel, speak multiple languages and consider that that is something really great. And a lot of our clients that have relocated to certain countries at least know the basics in the local language, and it truly enriches you in such a way that I would always recommend anyone moving to any country, in this case Russia, at least try to learn some of the basics of the language and of the culture for better integration. So basically, this is what Russia is proposing. Now, what is the downside of this? As you may imagine, Russia poses some issues if you want to live a nomad capitalist lifestyle. Russia is one of the most sanctioned countries in the world at the moment. Anyone who does business with Russia will find it very difficult to open an account or potentially start a company somewhere. So while it is technically still possible, if you do things in the right way and with the proper legal counsel, it is not impossible to, let's say, do any kind of business with Russia, but the freedom to transact with Russians overall is extremely limited. Obviously, anything to do with the Russian government, you can simply forget about it. That's essentially impossible on a broad scale with a handful of very limited exceptions, and doing business with the Russian economy overall is very complicated. For example, Russian banks, most of them were essentially driven out, banned, excluded from the payment system known as SWIFT, which is the system that is used to send money around the world. So in most cases, if you have money in a Russian bank, guess what? It has to stay in Russia. You can't really have the money leave Russia at least in an easy way. If you go to Russia as a tourist, you'll notice that your Visa card, your MasterCard, your American Express, it's not going to work in Russia. You're going to need to have a local Russian card that runs on their local payment system, which I believe is the MIR system. In addition to that, so you can also travel, of course, with cash. It is still possible to go to Russia, and you can actually view it for yourself and notice that it is still possible to eat out, to go shopping. Many of the Western brands have been replaced by local competitors that have taken up the mantle as Western brands and companies have left Russia since the onset of the war, but it is still possible. And so basically relocating to Russia will mean that you will have to at least acknowledge that you'll be at risk of losing some of those Western ties, such as, again, banking, businesses. You'll have a hard time traveling to and from the West. So these are things to consider because obviously if you will be living in Russia, you may find it good from a social perspective if you're a conservative, but you might find it difficult in order to do business. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we look at the holistic approach. Where do you feel good personally? Which places align with your values? And listen, that potentially may be Russia, but you also have to be in a place where you are able to freely do business and transit around the world. And in that case, Russia might make things very difficult for you. What I do also want to add is maybe Russia is an option, but makes some things difficult. But as I said before, Latin America, not as woke. Southeast Asia, not as woke. So if you are one of these persons that may have been interested by the title of this video, and you may find that Russian values align with yours, you should take into consideration that there are other places around the world, not just Russia, that have similar conservative values that might align with yours. For example, Latin America is very family-oriented. Women want to have kids. Marriage is important. Most of the population is still very religious, and people still go to Sunday Mass. Maybe not as much as they used to in the 1950s, but it's still much more important to go to mass in Latin America than it is in North America. In addition to that, you might find some countries, for example, in the Gulf. We talk a lot about Qatar, that is known for being very safe, the United Arab Emirates. These are countries that by nature, because they are predominantly Muslim countries, are much more conservative. And you can get a golden visa there easily. You can get other types of residence permits. And guess what? If you live in Dubai, you can still do business around the world. You can still travel easily and face less restrictions than what you would in Russia. Also, options in Southeast Asia. We've helped countless people move to countries like Malaysia that are not only extremely affordable. In fact, we have our live event coming up, Nomad Capitalist Live, in just a couple of days as of the date of filming of this video. And it's going to be in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be tremendous. And you'll find, if you decide to join us, that Kuala Lumpur is not only very affordable, but also quite conservative. Most of the population is Muslim, and it is a country that favors family, religion, and traditional values. So Russia is an option. And if you feel strongly about moving to Russia, if you like Russia, maybe you have some Russian roots and you want to reconnect with that, that's perfectly fine. And we can definitely help you do that. And that's a possibility. However, if you are just looking for a place where conservative values are more dominant, then there are a ton of options to choose from. You just have to contact somebody like Nomad Capitalist and have a call with us and discuss all the different options that you can choose from, because you know what? The world is a menu. Jurisdiction shopping is a thing in the 21st century, and you can definitely combine the right residence that makes you feel well on a personal level with the right offshore corporate structure that makes sure that your business is running optimally and that your business is paying as little tax as possible. So if all of this sounds appealing to you, don't hesitate to contact us, Nomad Capitalist/apply, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next video, comrades.